My Wargaming here. I just want to make a quick video on a few opinions that I have of the PoE2 early access and make some comparisons to PoE1. Obviously, just want to state that this is still early access. We've only been playing for a couple of weeks. Things are subject to change. Obviously, the content isn't complete yet, and GGG is still working on the game. But I just thought I'd pick a few topics to discuss. One of them being elemental resistances, especially during the campaign. I feel like if we look at PoE1, the resistances, they feel beneficial. Okay, so you're going through Act 1, especially when you get to Merval, you can really feel the benefit of having cold resistance as to not having cold resistance. You can do the fight without cold resistance, that's not a problem. And the fact that it's doable because it doesn't matter if you die. You can just go back in, use a TP, keep fighting away at the boss, and eventually you'll get it down. So while resistances feel beneficial, they don't feel mandatory. The difference being in PoE2 is you only get one attempt at the boss. If you die, you have to restart and do it all again. That means that you need to get resistances. Now the problem with that, especially with the, let's say, crafting, but I don't want to call what PoE2 has crafting, so we'll come back to that, is there's no crafting bench, so you can't just add resistances to your gear. You're completely reliant on the luck of the draw, what drops in the game, and what you can, randomly roll on your gear. But the fact that the resistance feels mandatory makes it feel very painful, or at least it did for me on my first playthrough as a monk. I would get to bosses and it was like hitting a brick wall. I didn't have enough evasion to dodge most of their attacks, but I also didn't have enough resistances to protect myself from their attacks either. So that's one of the issues I have, is resistances are feeling mandatory rather than just, if you get them, great. I feel like you really do need to get them. And also rings. In PoE1 we get rings drop fairly regularly. You might be unlucky and not get a sapphire ring, but you can actually do a vendor recipe and you can make sapphire rings. Whereas in PoE2, I don't believe that's the case at the moment. And jewellery is very rare in Act 1. I think a lot of people don't see any jewellery until Act 2. That may have changed with the recent patches, but I'll find out when I play through on my second character. And as I said earlier, the lack of the crafting bench really just exacerbates the whole problem of not being able to fill in the resistances as you progress through the game. Touch on movement skills. So obviously in PoE1, movement skills are quite, easy to get. You get them as part of the campaign. Leap, slam, flame dash, blink, that sort of thing. And it just feels like it just makes the traversing the terrain that much easier. You want to go up a cliff, you jump up a cliff. It's not a problem. You want to get away from a boss attack, you can get away from a boss attack. The problem in PoE2 is we don't have, especially early on, we don't have any movement skills. The only thing we've got is the dodge roll. I don't mind the dodge roll, but I'm not a massive fan of it either. GGG stated that they built the game around the dodge roll, and unfortunately for me it just doesn't feel enough. I don't feel like it travels far enough. A lot of the bosses I encountered on my monk early on, they would start doing an AoE, I would dodge roll, and the dodge wouldn't get to the edge of the AoE, so I'd still get hit. I feel like if you're going to give someone a dodge roll, give them an actual dodge roll. Make it useful. Give it. I think there's probably been some discussion around giving it phasing. I know they've reduced the character size on the dodge roll. We'll see how it goes. Also, regarding movement skills in PoE1, you get the Quicksilver Flask, and I think I've seen some discussion around potentially introducing the Quicksilver Flask in PoE2. Again, giving the player agency over their ability to get out of danger. At the moment, it's punishing. It really is punishing. When you're like, oh, I think I can get away from... No, I've been hit by that. Oh, there's an AoE coming. No, I got hit by that. Not being able to put on a burst of speed or blink or do anything to get out of some of the danger is... it just feels painful, and it doesn't feel good as a player to me. If I just move on to a bit about the campaign, PoE1's campaign, the zones all feel the right size to me. They don't feel too big, they don't feel too small, they all feel pretty good. Obviously PoE2's got 6 acts, so I'd expect the zones to be a little bit bigger. And Act 1, I think Act 1 is fine as it is. Act 1 in PoE2 is fine, but Act 2 starts getting a little bit too much. It's a little bit too big. But I can live with Act 2. And then in Act 3, it gets... I don't understand the philosophy. They've increased the size of the zones by 4-fold. They're confusing layouts, they're just a maze of pathways, but they're all almost identical. You get to the second half of Act 3 and all the zones are just tight corridors and mazes. And it's just, again, without movement skills or even easy access to movement speed on boots, it just becomes very tedious. It's not enjoyable. There's not enough packs, there's not enough content. They're just too big. In PoE1, when we had they released some of the Act 4 zones, especially around the Kaon, people complained and they took out some of the zones because it just felt unnecessary bloat. They was just there for no reason. So hopefully they do a bit of a redesign, a bit of a rejig, and shrink some of the zones. I'd hate to think that Act 4 was bigger than Act 3 and Act 5 was bigger and so on. That would feel awful. I think Act 3 needs a bit of work. Just touch on the passive tree. Obviously PoE1's passive tree is a culmination of over 10 years of content, patches, tweaking. It's gonna have a lot more depth and nuances to it, but at the same time they've brought out PoE2's passive tree and it feels bland. It doesn't feel interesting. I know they've taken life percentage off the tree, but at the same time it just... there's nothing interesting there. There's nothing that catches your eye. I feel like at the very least they should have had masteries. I feel like I quite like masteries from PoE1. And I get it. It's early access, and you know, you can't just put all this in a brand new game. And maybe they ran out of time. Maybe they ran out of time. They switched to doing the end game instead of finishing the campaign. Maybe they were just like, right, okay, we've got a working passive tree. We'll put it out there. We want to do more, but we just don't have the time. Maybe that was the case, and maybe we'll see something in the near future with an update. And I find the 5-point stats are so punishing again, because you might get a new bit of gear, or you go, oh, I might change to a new gem, and it's like, oh, I need oh, I need 20 or 15 extra stats. Well, it's not like 1 or 2 points. That's like 3 to 5 points that you need to get of the next several levels. Yeah, I think they should adjust the stat points maybe back to 10, maybe something like 8. I think I've seen ideas of floating around to suggest 8 instead of 5. And I hope they bring in like masteries and cluster jewels and all that sort of thing. But the problem with that is it's going to add power creep to a brand new game. So I'm not sure that they're probably going to do that just yet. Gems. I've seen a lot of people complaining about the gems. The system in PoE1 works. You know, as you level your character, you get the option to buy any gem you want in the game. And it just makes changing builds so much easier. You want to flip to a cyclone build, you can flip to a cyclone build. You want to buy the support gems for it, you can buy the support gems for it. With this system, you have to come across the uncut skill gems to unlock certain skill gems, but they're all, I don't know, I feel like GGG made a new game, decided to make a new game, and felt like they had to innovate in some fashion. They felt like they had to do it differently. It's a new game, we can't do the same thing twice, we have to do it differently. And the problem with that is, I think this is the stark contrast between PoE1 and PoE2. Is PoE1 did a lot of things very, very well. And just because it's a new game doesn't mean you can't use something again because it's worked once. So they've put in another system, which, in my opinion, is not better. I feel like you could have taken the PoE1 system and reworked it in some fashion to make it better and more appealing to new players. This is the whole point of the video. Is PoE1 had all these solutions. There was no need to reinvent the wheel. Just take what worked and make it better. And don't make something new because you feel like you have to. I just, yeah, there's nothing that's really exciting to me about PoE2 at the moment. You know, I like making new characters around special unique interactions, or designing it around a skill gem, which I think, oh yeah, that'd be interesting. But there's a lot of, they're funneling you into a lot of builds just by restricting what you can do. It's just, I don't want to come across as negative. I'm enjoying the game. I enjoy it. You know, the graphics are lovely and the boss fights are amazing. But in terms of the mechanics of how the game is working at the moment, it's just, to me, it's worse than the game they've already got. And seeing it and playing it, I feel like all I want right now is a brand new PoE1 with the graphics and engine from this game, but the majority of the mechanics of PoE1. And I don't know really what else to say on the matter. I think to fix this game, you're gonna just end up making PoE1 again. Which was almost the point in the first place, was that PoE2 was going to be an update to PoE1. And then I think they've come up with all these changes, you know, changes for the gem and movement skills and all of that, and gone, oh well, we need a new game. But it's not better. You had the goose that laid the golden egg, and you took it out, and you know, got rid of it. I don't understand. Don't need to reinvent the wheel. I don't really want to touch on ascendancies, but I probably will really quickly. I don't understand why they put it behind the sanctum and the ultimatum. Just make ascendancies part of the campaign. Make your first 3 ascendancies part of your character progression. Yeah, you get to the end of Act 3 or Act 2, get to the end of Act 2, you get your first ascendancy points. As a thank you for defeating Jamanra, or whatever his name is. You get your second ascendancy in Act 1, Crawl, and then you get your third ascendancy at the end of Act 3, Crawl. And then make the challenge the 4th ascendancy, defeating a boss in a map somewhere. Like, I don't understand putting a major part of character progression behind something as tedious or as difficult as Sanctum and Ultimatum. It's frustrated the player base. You know, we put up with Lab in PoE1 for years, but it was pretty easy, to be fair. Like, the traps weren't difficult, the boss wasn't especially difficult. But they've completely gone the other direction and made it nigh impossible for 90% of the people out there. It's not fun. I'm going to come back the same way. It's tedious and punishing. For no reason. There's other things in the game that are there to challenge you. Not... Your character progression shouldn't be one of the challenges. My experience with the end game, it's a little bit, how to explain it. It feels like it's difficult for me to progress because it feels like there's no direct route for progression. You know, you're putting this atlas, it's infinite in every direction. And I'm just throwing whatever maps I've got in, chucking in precursors into towers. I'm not feeling a direction. In PoE1, you started the atlas and you went, right, okay, first task, complete all the maps. Second task, work on my waystones or my void stones. And you knew that was your progression. You completed the maps, you completed your boss fights, you did your Exarch, you did your Eater, you did your Maven. That was your progression. And it wasn't easily identifiable for new players, but you could see it. I can't see my progression in the end game on PoE2. I'm just throwing maps in and running them for the sake of running them. Yeah, I feel like there needs to be clearer defined paths that you need to take. Yeah, it's just unclear. Again, that makes it tedious because you're sitting there scratching your head going, what do I do next? Where am I supposed to be going to? What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I mean, I could probably go on for hours, but yeah, I feel like they were trying to reinvent the wheel for no reason than they felt that they had to because it's a new game. Hopefully they can pull things back. and get it into a better state. I mean, we've got at least 6 months of early access, so they've got a lot of time to work on it. But I will be looking forward to the new PoE1 League next year. Fingers crossed it's not just a filler league or a Settlers 3.5. Hopefully we're getting a really nice fresh league. And I'll be going back to it. I mean, I'll continue playing PoE2 until then, trying new things. But yeah, I know a few people that's already stopped playing because while the boss fights feel great, there's a lot that doesn't. So yeah, I'm going to end this video here. Hope you all have a great day. Take care.